When storms roll in and the horizon disappears behind walls of gray, the average mind looks for shelter. The impulse is to retreat, to search for the nearest exit, to rationalize an escape route. Yet there is another path, one that only a rare breed chooses. It is the route of persistence, the refusal to bow before temporary discomfort, the deliberate choice to press on even when the voice inside screams, "Quit." True winners do not silence that voice by ignoring reality. They silence it by proving it wrong. They understand that struggle is not a signal to surrender, but an invitation to evolve. They see adversity as raw material for greatness, and every time they hammer away at it with discipline, they forge a stronger version of themselves. This mindset is not reserved for a select few born with extraordinary gifts. It is a cultivated attitude, available to anyone willing to replace excuses with effort, doubt with determination, and hesitation with action. Imagine the moment when dawn is still a rumor, when the world lies cocooned in sleep. The winner is already moving, tying shoelaces, filling notebooks with plans, stretching limbs that ache from yesterday's grind. The air is cold, the muscles are stiff, and no applause echoes through the silence. But that is precisely when character is built. Success is not born in front of cheering crowds. It is quietly constructed in the lonely hours when no one is watching. The people who rise to exceptional heights do not rely on external motivation. They generate their own momentum by honoring commitments long after the excitement of setting the goal has faded. Every small act, choosing water over soda, taking the stairs instead of the elevator, rereading a chapter when the material still feels fuzzy, becomes a brick in the fortress of perseverance. Over time, these bricks accumulate into a structure so sturdy that even life's fiercest tempests cannot topple it. The difference between quitting and winning often comes down to one more try. History is filled with stories of those who stopped inches from gold, who allowed frustration to convince them the dream was unreachable. Winners, on the other hand, treat each setback as feedback, a signal pointing to a different approach rather than a dead end. When a proposal is rejected, they refine it. When the body fails in a workout, they examine nutrition, rest, and technique. When a launch falls flat, they scrutinize messaging, audience, and timing. Quitting shuts the book mid-sentence. Persistence keeps turning pages until the narrative transforms. Winners know that mastery is a process of iteration, and they refuse to let the embarrassment of an imperfect draft keep them from producing a masterpiece. There is a common misconception that the absence of talent is a legitimate reason to quit. In truth, talent is only a starting line. What carries someone across the finish is relentless practice. Consider the child who cannot swim but dreams of crossing a lake one day. On the first lesson, they flail and choke on water. The second lesson looks marginally better, yet fear still clings. Weeks pass and the strokes grow cleaner, the breathing steadier. Months later, the same child glides across the surface with confidence that seems innate. From the outside, observers marvel at natural ability, but the swimmer knows the truth. Skill was carved out of repeated failure. Winners embrace this incremental progress. They derive satisfaction not merely from outcomes, but from the knowledge that each rep, each draft, each attempt deposits a coin in the bank of competence. Eventually, compound interest kicks in and what once seemed impossible becomes routine. Excuses are the fertile soil where quitting takes root. Winners refuse to cultivate them. They might acknowledge limitations, time, resources, background, but they do not grant those limitations power over their destiny. If money is tight, they find a library instead of purchasing books. If the schedule is packed, they wake an hour earlier. If the environment is unsupportive, they build an inner sanctuary of affirmation. This proactive mindset flips the narrative from victimhood to ownership. It is not that obstacles cease to exist. Rather, the individual refuses to outsource responsibility for their progress. They ask, "What can I do with what I have right now?" That question opens doors previously invisible, and each answer propels them another step forward. Resistance also requires managing self-talk with precision. The mind is a storyteller, weaving interpretations of every event. When a project fails, the quitter's mind says, "I'm not cut out for this." The winner's mind reframes, "I just discovered one method that doesn't work. Now I'm closer to one that does." This is not blind optimism. It is strategic psychology. By controlling the narrative, winners maintain energy and curiosity, two essential fuels for continued effort. They practice gratitude for the chance to improve, celebrate small wins to reinforce momentum, and visualize future triumphs to make the grind feel meaningful. They understand that quitting often masquerades as rationality. Why waste more time? But is actually a subtle surrender of self-belief. By guarding their thoughts, they protect their potential. The body must be trained alongside the mind because physical resilience supports mental endurance. Winners treat health as a non-negotiable asset. They exercise not merely for aesthetics, but to cultivate stamina for long work sessions, clarity for strategic thinking, and mood stability during stressful periods. Proper nutrition, sleep hygiene, and active recovery become tools in the arsenal against fatigue-induced quitting. When the body is strong, the willpower tank replenishes faster, and decisions made under pressure are sharper. Winners see self-care as a responsibility, not a luxury, because it directly impacts their capacity to persist. Now picture a young man who grew up in a small Midwestern town, raised in an environment where dreams rarely stretched beyond local horizons. He battled a learning disorder that made reading a labyrinth of confusion and frustration. At school, he was labeled slow, and in sports, he was undersized, often chosen last. Home life offered little refuge. A family tragedy left emotional scars that threatened to define him. By his early 20s, he had every justification to settle into mediocrity. Poverty of circumstance, physical limitations, emotional baggage, yet something inside refused to bow. One winter morning, standing before a cracked bathroom mirror, he confronted the uncomfortable truth that his life was a reflection of choices, not fate. In that moment, he declared war on excuses. He began with small, almost ridiculous commitments, jogging one block without stopping, reading a single page aloud each night to train his mind, writing 3 sentences about what he learned from the day. The first week was agony. Lungs burned, legs cramped, words blurred on the page. But he kept a promise to himself. No matter how slow, he would not quit. Over months, the block became a mile, then 5, then 20. The single page became entire chapters. The sentences turned into journals brimming with insights. Friends questioned his obsession. Family members worried about his sanity, yet he pressed on. He discovered the transformative power of compound effort, the way tiny actions, repeated consistently, create seismic shifts. One evening, he stumbled upon an advertisement for a grueling endurance event that combined long-distance running, cycling, and swimming. Competitors pushed their bodies past conventional limits, and dropout rates were high, even among seasoned athletes. The thought of entering seemed laughable. He could barely swim. But winners chase the very challenges that terrify them. Because they know growth hides behind fear, he registered, set a date 6 months away, and constructed a training schedule that dominated every sunrise and sunset. The pool became his second home. He swallowed water, panicked mid-lap, but refused to leave until completing the day's distance. On roads and trails, he logged mile after mile, sometimes hobbling through blisters, sometimes vomiting from exertion, but always finishing. Race day arrived under a blazing sun. Early into the swim, waves battered participants, and rescue kayaks hauled several out. Our protagonist gulped seawater, muscles screaming, but remembered the mirror promise: no quitting. He emerged last from the water, yet something ignited in him. On the bike, he clawed past dozens, fueled by months of relentless preparation. The run portion tested him further. Cramps knotted his calves, and each step felt like stomping on glass. Spectators watched as he staggered, head lowered. A volunteer asked if he wanted to withdraw. He answered by straightening his posture and moving forward. Hours later, long after the leaders crossed the line, he finished. Tears mingled with sweat as he realized the victory was not the medal, but the unbreakable identity forged along the journey. That single event became a catalyst. He pursued ever more demanding challenges: ultramarathons through deserts, mountain treks at altitude, charitable projects for wounded veterans. Each feat amplified the message he had proven to himself: excuses are lies, and quitting is a choice. Today, he mentors at-risk youth, sharing the lesson that one courageous decision can rewrite a life's trajectory. People see him as a hero, yet he insists he is ordinary. The only difference, he tells them, is that he resolved to keep moving when everything in him wanted to stop. His story illustrates that heroism is not bestowed by circumstance, but earned by endurance. Winners also understand the importance of community. While the journey demands personal accountability, no one climbs alone. They surround themselves with people who challenge complacency and celebrate persistence. They seek mentors who model resilience, peers who share standards, and protégés who remind them to lead by example. In this ecosystem, quitting becomes socially unacceptable. The norm is progress. If motivation dips, a supportive voice offers perspective. If arrogance creeps in, constructive feedback restores humility. This network becomes both safety net and springboard, enabling sustained growth far beyond what solitary effort could achieve. Equally vital is the practice of reflection. Winners schedule regular check-ins with themselves, assessing alignment between daily actions and long-term vision. They ask, is my current routine serving my goal? If the answer is no, they adjust without self-condemnation. Reflection prevents blind persistence on the wrong path. It refines strategy while preserving commitment. This adaptability separates stubbornness from perseverance. Quitting is abandoning the mission. Recalibrating is honoring it by finding better methods. Time management is another battlefield where quitting lurks. Distractions masquerade as urgent tasks, draining energy from meaningful work. Winners protect their focus through clear priorities, segmenting the day into blocks dedicated to high-impact activities. They leverage tools, calendars, timers, accountability partners to guard these blocks. By saying no to low-value demands, they create room to say yes to actions that propel them toward victory. This disciplined stewardship of time reinforces the identity of someone who finishes what they start. Self-compassion may seem out of place in a discussion on relentless effort, yet it is indispensable. Winners are not immune to fatigue or error. They simply refuse to let setbacks morph into self-loathing. They treat mistakes as data, rest as fuel, and recovery as strategic investment. When the body signals the need for a pause, they listen, knowing that sustainable success is a marathon, not a sprint. This balanced approach prevents burnout, ensuring they have the capacity to persist over years, not just weeks. Ultimately, the refusal to quit stems from a clear sense of purpose. When the reason for the goal is larger than comfort, pain loses its power. Winners define success in terms that transcend personal gain. Service to family, contribution to community, fulfillment of potential. This deeper why acts as an anchor in turbulent seas. When motivation wanes, purpose pulls them forward. It whispers reminders of who is counting on their persistence, of the lives that will be touched by their example, of the legacy they are crafting. Quitting would betray not only themselves, but also the people their success could uplift. Every day, life offers a simple choice: step forward into growth or retreat into safety. The allure of quitting will always beckon, promising immediate relief. But relief is fleeting, and regret lasts. Winners choose the harder path not because they enjoy struggle for its own sake, but because they understand the cost of abandoning their potential. They know that discipline today creates freedom tomorrow, that sacrifice now yields dividends later, and that the pain of perseverance is always less than the pain of regret. You, reading these words, hold the same power. The obstacles before you, financial strain, health challenges, academic hurdles, emotional wounds, are not verdicts. They are invitations to rise. Decide that excuses will no longer define you. Craft a plan, however modest, and execute it daily. Celebrate incremental progress. Surround yourself with allies. Guard your mind, body, and time. Reflect, adjust, and persist. Remember the young man who transformed from an overlooked underdog into a symbol of endurance. His secret weapon was simply refusing to quit. Adopt that weapon, wield it with courage, and watch as doors once thought sealed swing open. The world does not need more half-finished dreams. It needs individuals who complete the race, who turn potential into tangible impact, who prove through action that winners don't quit. Let today be the line you draw in the sand, the moment you decide that setbacks will be stepping stones, not tombstones. Feel the weight of that commitment settle into your bones, and then move one step, one page, one rep at a time. Keep moving when it hurts, when it's lonely, when applause is absent. Keep moving until persistence becomes your identity and victory becomes inevitable. Winners don't quit, and starting now, neither will you.